Okay, so this is our last panel of the morning. We have another couple after lunch. And so this is the formal informal. And Dennis, was this the one that you were going to... Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so we have people who are doing a formal or informal education. Again, you know, there's always overlap into different things. I'm going to start you the same way. Tell us about your audience and how you reach them. And tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Rebekah Purvis. My background is actually in heliophysics research before I changed to education. So the Eclipse was, you know, like a big deal for me in so many different ways. I now live in Texas. I've been there for about 10 years, and I am a lecturer at the University of North Texas, which was just outside of totality, like literally miles. Like I told students, you could probably just walk. So as a part of my, you know, normal job duties, I help to organize some events both on, you know, our main campus and on other campuses. You know, for the Eclipse, but I wanted to do something in my own community. I live in Fort Worth, which is about 30 miles from campus, and there's actually an elementary school literally in my neighborhood that I can walk to. So I reached out to the school, and I formed a science club there. I connected with a teacher who was actually the teacher of the year before, and she's extremely passionate about science. So the principal, you know, connected us. And we came up with this amazing plan for a science club for 30 students. Okay, so you know, lots of hands-on activities. We're going to have the younger ones. The school is also a dual language campus. It's the Vietnamese language hub for our district, which is pretty cool. So it has pre-K, which is all Vietnamese language students, and then up through 5th grade. So the original plan was that I would take the older children, she would work with the younger children, you know, again, about 30 students. We opened up, you know, for parents to sign up, and more than 150 students signed up. So that blew, you know, wide open our plans. We did not deny anyone. So all students were, you know, participated. We had, you know, an amazing turnout. We did hands-on activities. We met in the cafeteria. And the way that I can tell you that it was a success is because starting in about, I think, week 3 or week 4, and we met for 10 weeks leading up to the Eclipse. So in about week 3 or week 4, I started getting hugs. So hugs are hugs, and I have this example of a thank you note. So that's how you know that you know that connection, you know, is working. So the district also made a little video, which was shared out with the whole community. There's 40,000 students in the whole district, and that went out on social media. It was just fantastic. My focus was to help the students communicate the Eclipse out to their community. So, you know, we did a lot of practice with sharing. If you're an educator, you know the think, pair, share method. So we did a lot of that. And I also wanted them to have hands-on things. So at the end, they all got an Eclipse certificate. They were ambassadors. And on Eclipse Day, they all had this badge that they wore. So we put it on a necklace. It's a pinhole projector, and the ink is UV sensitive. So they all, well, you know, there's 600 kids in the school, and 150 or so of them had these. So it was awesome. Thank you.
My name is Amy Walker. I am the education manager at the AirZoo in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We are an aviation museum and science center. And our project centered around working with the out-of-school time sector. So we worked with, in informal education, working with after-school programs such as Boys and Girls, Communities in Schools. We worked with a Spanish language program called El Concilio, our Parks program. And our goal was to really empower these informal educators to work with their students, equipping them with the knowledge and resources to engage in Eclipse activities before, during, and after the Eclipse. And so we developed kits for these educators, informal educators, with a multitude of hands-on activities, but also literacy in our community. community is an issue, so we wanted to be sure to bring in text to our work. And so we included 4 different books in our kits. Some of those were provided in Spanish language so that they were accessible to a broader community. And we developed STEAM literacy cards to go with those books, so that way the educators had a way to engage students in questioning activities and really expand their knowledge of the eclipse itself. And we then worked to leverage these activities in other ways. We created a launch landing page on our website that centered around eclipse activities, and we had about 650 educators in our community sign up for eclipse classes and also access to these resources. So we distributed, leading up to the eclipse, about 18,000 eclipse classes to our community, along with safety instructions for viewing and activities that could be done with their students. We also kind of took it to our own local AirZoo community, and we hosted a viewing party the day of the eclipse, which was exciting to see families, children, generational groups was really exciting to see grandparents in with their grandkids. Because of the timing of the eclipse, it was like right at that when like school was just getting out for in our area. You saw kind of a lot of mixed groups, which was really exciting. And we had about 1,200 people attend our eclipse viewing party. So really working to leverage communication about the eclipse, and I think probably one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got about the out of school time sector was how well they were able to use the materials leading into the eclipse, during the eclipse, and after the eclipse. One of the facilitators told me that they had their group of kids requesting 3, 4, 5 times to do the activities, and that by the end those students were leading the activities for other kids. So that was really, really exciting to hear.
So I'm Kevin Flaherty from Williams College, and our focus was really on bringing the eclipse to like every school child that we could find. Williamstown, Massachusetts is a small enough community that we could visit every single one of the schools. So we visited, pre-K schools, elementary schools, high school in the area, and we did a mix of different activities. Some of the schools, it was large presentations for the high school, kind of trying to hit a couple hundred high school students. It was a presentation for some of the smaller schools. It was more kind of a mix of different activities, whether it was talking about how to view a solar eclipse safely using eclipse glasses, that every school child in Williamstown got a pair of eclipse glasses. Talking about what happens during the eclipse. One unexpected issue that we ran into is for talking to kind of pre-K kids about the eclipse, we wanted to use stuffed animals. We didn't have any area appropriate stuffed animals. We had like elephants and seals and unicorns, which, are not native to Western Massachusetts. So we had to scrounge a little bit. Luckily, one of our college students had a bat. So we were able to use that, which is great. But, that was one issue. But, we were like demonstrating that with the pre-K kids was great. We also got the UV color changing beads, which was wonderful. You bring those outside. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. We even had a pack of them that were covered in sunscreen to kind of show how sunscreen blocks UV, and solar eclipse glasses as well. So we did a lot of that, kind of connecting with the community, and how we reached out to them is Williams College has what they call a Center for Learning and Action, which is a department that connects with local, outreach. So they had contacts in local schools that allowed us to kind of reach out and say, hey, we want to do this activity. They already had the contacts to connect us with everyone. So we were able to do that, plus that's what we did. Yeah.
That's great stuff. Good morning. I'm Ellen Barnett, and I'm an associate professor of science education from Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. our target audience was K-12 students in formal settings as well as informal settings. And to reach those students, we worked with public school teachers in San Antonio. We have a strong existing partnerships with those teachers through our Department of Education at the university. And so we invited them to the university for professional development, where they received resources, including the solar eclipse systems boxes that you saw in the video. And then in addition to receiving those physical resources, the boxes also had other things in them, glasses, pinhole viewing frames. So they had other materials in the boxes, and then they also had access to digital resources that included lessons that were standards aligned to both next generation science standards and then the state standards that are used in Texas, and then a wide variety of resources, lesson plans, et cetera, available from many different places, including the National Science Teaching Association. And we had the standards aligned in there. We had resources in Spanish and English. But I think one of the things that made the project successful that we were able to do through the generous funding from AAS is provide not just the resources, but the time and the space for teachers to really collaborate. And so even after the professional development event was over, teachers stayed and they worked with teachers that were in, their buildings or neighboring schools and thought about how they would involve other teachers that weren't at the event. And they planned like a unit of lesson, not just a lesson, but some problem-based learning units. So we're really excited about that. And then we also partnered with the San Antonio Public Libraries, and then at a separate event, we have 30, but the Central Library and 29 branch libraries in San Antonio. And so the children's librarians from each of those branch libraries came to the event. They some libraries received boxes, but then libraries are also wonderful about sharing resources. And so they shared those, and they did 17 total events that were attended by just a little less than 500 people in our community using those resources as well as other resources that they have. They had wonderful text suggestions, and they used those. And then we had a full-scale model that was available at the Central Library, and that was a little bit more difficult to keep track of the numbers, but many people in our community were able to see that full-scale model. And so we were really excited about the project, and I'm so grateful for the support.
Okay, do I have questions for our panelists? You're all ready for lunch now, right? So before I ask a question, just for the record, I did an event at one of the libraries in San Antonio recently, the Mission Library, where we used the scale model because it was actually a planetary science outreach event. And so it's already being used for things. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so, there was a question back here. Excellent.
Thanks. So the question I have, great presentation. You had a very narrow age group cohort, and some were very large. How did you figure out how to handle the group from kindergarten to 12, which it's a little easier when they're all 5 or 6 years old, and then the other, they're not there, but I mean, how do you balance those learning skills that you need to provide to them? Thanks.
Which end shall I start?
So I didn't have K through 12, but I had pre-K. Yeah. So, but I did have pre-K through 5th, which is still quite an age gap. So I don't know if you've heard of the activity, the solar cookie, which is where you give them a sugar cookie, and so I did the lesson about features of the sun, like magnetic loops and sunspots, and then they use different food to decorate their cookie to make it look like a sun, right? So this is one of my favorite outreach activities to do. But you can imagine how different that looked from a pre-K student, through a 5th grader. So what I did is I hung out near the older kids, and I tried to go more in depth about what was going on. And then the younger ones just kind of went at it, and made a mess. But so even with that range of students in the same, room, you can kind of, still differentiate ages. But I'll pass it on to those who had more.
So the students involved in our after-school cohorts ranged from kindergarten through 8th grade generally, so quite a span. And initially we were looking at developing 2 separate kits, one for elementary and one for middle school, but there were so many sites that saw and worked with youth in both age groups that we worked to combine the activities. So I think part of our strategy was to provide a wide enough range of resources in the kit and to provide facilitator education. We did a professional development for those who were receiving our kits so that they had the, and they know their students best, right? So they had the confidence to select what types of activities would work right for their different groups. But I think also leaning into, because especially since it is an informal education setting, leaning into empowering the youth to, become part of the learning cycle and really empowering them to get excited about the different activities and take them in their own direction, kind of lets there be a little bit more flexibility in the pathway for that.
Yeah, so we definitely covered a wide range from K through 8th grade, including one school that was pre-K through 8th grade. And what really helped us was splitting them into different groups. So when we went to the elementary schools, you'd have one presentation for kindergarten through 3rd graders, and then another presentation for 3rd graders through 6th graders. When we went to the one school that was kind of K through 8th all the way through, we had a couple of different activities, and it would be the 7th and 8th graders would come through the activities, and then the 5th and 6th graders, and then the 3rd and 4th graders. So we could kind of like grade down the kind of level we were speaking at. The 8th graders made sure that we named the stuffed animals before we got to the pre-K students. They knew that was important, and that sort of thing. So having kind of splitting up the groups, that helped it more manageable sizes, but it also helped us adapt to different, audiences as we went along.
Thanks for the question. I actually found that in working with diverse ages that there were really similar questions from elementary students to students in my undergraduate courses to some of the adults that attended our events at the library. They had really similar questions about where things were in space and what was happening and what 99% totality meant. And so I think in some ways I didn't see as many differences across the age groups as maybe I might have expected. And then I think the other thing that several people have spoke about in their presentations is like the people that we worked with know their audiences best. And so for us working with formal educators and informal educators in the library, they know their audiences best. And so we created a time and some space and some resources, but our teachers that we worked with, they really knew their students. And so our 5th grade teachers knew what to do with that model and the resources that they had, our high school teachers knew. We had some physical, like health science teachers that came and were asking, can we participate too, even though we're not directly science and math? And I thought, of course, come. And they knew exactly what to do, and they spoke with their students about eye health. And so I think a part of it is just getting to the people who do know their audiences so well. So I didn't have to think too much about how to differentiate.
Well, we have another, okay, last one because we're actually over time, but that's good. This is a good conversation.
This is not a question, just a comment. So I actually learned in the undergraduate presentations at my university, Montana State University, there's a game that's super easy to play that's called Eclipse Ball. So definitely partner with those physical education teachers.
Thank you so much. And let's thank our panel again.